Well, hello, Century Tigers. This is Mrs. Ogus. It's so nice to be able to come back to Century. Feels good. So, I'm going to read you a story today called Calvin Can't Fly. And after I listened to this story and read the story, it kind of reminded me of a unique character named Tucky the Penguin. And it also reminded me of a lot of you students that I see with your noses in books all the time, which is a teacher's dream. So let's listen to Calvin and his story with his huge family, and we'll find out what happens. So this is Calvin Can't Fly, the story of a bookworm birdie, by Jennifer Byrne, illustrated by Keith Bendis. He's so cute. There he is. His nose is in a book. So Calvin is a starling. It's a type of bird. He was born under the eaves of an old barn with his 3 brothers, 4 sisters, and 67,432 cousins. Starlings have big families. Oh my goodness. See the big families? A lot of us have big families. Right from the beginning, Calvin was different. Hoping you can see this okay. Right from the day, all the little starlings tumbled out of their nests to discover the world. Charlie discovered worms. Adeline discovered grass. Clement discovered dirt. Aubrey discovered water. And Calvin, well, what do you think? Calvin discovered a book. There he is with his nose in a book. Love it. While all of Calvin's cousins chased beetles, bugs, and ants, Calvin was learning to read letters, words, and sentences. At night, his cousins dreamed of insect eating and garbage picking. Calvin dreamed of adventure stories, legends, and poetry. Oh, I love poetry. Love poetry. He even dreamed that someday he'd become a great writer himself. Oh, I know a lot of great writers at Century, and that is something I love to do too. Every morning, I write in my journal. So I have something in common with Calvin. On June 1st, when the little starlings lined up for flying lessons with their teacher, Mr. Wingstead, Calvin was nowhere to be seen. Where is that bird? It's over here. Here's the teacher. He's shouting out, where is that bird? I think you and I both know where he's at. Did you guess it? Look where he's at. The what? Library. Actually, Calvin, once again was in the library. As the other little starlings were learning to swoop and hover and fly figure eights, Calvin buried his beak in books. And there his mind soared, because we know the more books you read, the more vocabulary you have, and your imagination, your mind can go places you never would imagine. Calvin read about pirates and cavemen, volcanoes and rainbows, whales and dinosaurs. Oh my goodness, so many of you love dinosaurs. Calvin especially loved dinosaurs. He learned how the planets circle the sun, what makes the wind blow, and amazing facts like how caterpillars grow up to become butterflies. His books took him to places wings never could, and his heart fluttered with excitement. Look at him. He's so excited. He's learning so much. Boy, I wonder where his mind is going right now. Calvin's cousins called him Nerdy Birdie, Geeky Beaky, and Bookworm. And when you're a bird, being called a worm, it's not a very good thing. Calvin ruffled his feathers and mumbled, "Oh, how the wounding words of scorn do sing." Now that's some big vocabulary. He probably learned that by reading books. Then he sadly waddled back to the library, the only place where he was happy. And so he spent all summer reading, learning, and absorbing everything his little starling mind could. So there he is. He's not looking too happy, probably because of all that name calling. Until the first leaf turned orange and fell to the ground. The fall wind sent a chill through the old barn. Summer's nests blew to the floorboards. It was time to head south, because you know they head south for the winter. His cousins warned, "Calvin, you better learn to fly. In a couple of days, we've got to be out of here." Calvin said, "Ah, yes, migration. I've read about that." Books. His sister asked, "Calvin, can you fly?" Calvin had to admit he couldn't fly. All the other starlings took off in a great giant formation. Have you ever seen starlings fly over in the sky? They're all grouped together, and it's amazing to see how they don't bump into each other. Who would know? But Calvin could only stand and watch. A big lonely tear rolled down his cheek. He really wants to be a part of that, but he is pretty obsessed with his books. Maybe this will be a turn in the story. I don't think they're gonna leave him. Calvin turned and trudged back toward the barn. He was so upset he didn't even notice his brothers and sisters and cousins coming back to get him. Told you. All of a sudden, they were tying up Calvin's middle with string and scraps of cloth they had found in the garbage. Oh my goodness. They're not going to leave anybody behind. Don't ever leave anybody behind. Isn't that from Lilo and Stitch? They grasped the other ends with their beaks, and off they flew, with Calvin somewhat embarrassed, safely in tow. Oh, that's Ohana. Means nobody gets left behind. Doesn't he look like a big, giant thing of balloons? Or the birds do, and he's carrying them. I love how they're sticking together. For days and days they flew. Calvin recognized the rivers, mountains, and towns he had read about all summer. Excitedly, he pointed them out to his brothers, sisters, and cousins, but the other little starlings just flapped their wings and headed south. Ooh, he has a lot to share with his cousins, all that knowledge from all the books that he has read. This is fun reading to you guys. Soon there came a day when the winds blew especially hard. Trees bent sideways, leaves scattered wildly, flying became harder and harder. The air had an odd smell to it, the smell of danger. Dun dun dun. Calvin, remembering back to his favorite weather book, warned the rest of his family. A hurricane is coming. All his brothers and sisters and cousins asked, "Well, what's a hurricane?" I predict he's going to have a lot of information about what a hurricane is. Don't you? It's probably got several books on it. Look at this page. Calvin explained as quickly as his little beak could. Oh, I bet he was just dying to tell them all about what a hurricane was. We need to get out of the path of a violent tropical weather system, which is storming up the coast at a tremendous speed and will not diminish until it encounters large stretches of land mass. Everybody, make haste. into that cave. They had no idea what Calvin was saying, but they had to admit it did sound real. So the flock made a loop-de-loop left and a dipsy-doodle right and dove into the cave. They did everything Calvin told them to do. I like the dipsy-doodle part. To their amazement, a great storm did blow across the land. It thundered over the mountains, it roared through the villages, it smashed and crashed, rumbled and raged, just as Calvin had predicted. The whole big Starling family gathered together, watching in fear and awe. The storm finally ended, the sun came out in the sky, and the starlings came out of their cave. They were safe and sound. All because of who? Calvin. There they are. And I'm sure he's giving them information by detail every minute, every second. And then there's the beautiful sunshine. Storms do pass. They celebrated with a great starling party in honor of Calvin. They ate big juicy worms and yummy crunchy beetles. Okay. They danced and sang songs about how Calvin had saved their lives. They toasted Calvin with acorn caps filled with fresh, clear mountain water. That sounds yummy. Calvin was so happy and felt so good deep down inside that he jumped and hopped and danced and flapped his wings. And flapped his wings and flapped his wings. Can you guess what's happening? He flapped his wings and flapped his wings. All the other starlings looked at him in amazement. Calvin, you can fly, they exclaimed. And Calvin, the happiest starling in the whole wide world, chirped, why, yes, I do believe I can. Look at all of them. If we believe it, we can do it. Right? And they all flew south with big white smiles on their starling faces. Oh, especially Calvin. He's the leader of the pack right there. The end. There he is with his family. So my friends, I hope this shed some happiness your way today. And just know we all miss you guys. Have a great, great Monday. Bye.